Ready, steady, go! Welcome to Studio MH Day. I'm Ina Yoga. I'm the International Coordinator for Menstrual Hygiene Day here at WASH United in Berlin. WASH United is the initiator of and the International Secretariat of MH Day, and I will lead you through today's show. To my right side is Torsten, CEO
Hello.
of WASH United and also co-initiator of the day. To my left side is Yulia, our communication manager. And we're really excited to welcome you and moderate together the show for you. Yulia will provide us with regular updates and highlights from what is happening around the world. Now we're actually in the second spotlight session of today, which is focusing on Africa and Europe. And I welcome everyone again. We have a jam-packed of really extremely diverse program for you, including conversations with a wide range of organizations and individuals who drive change and action on menstrual health and hygiene in the region. We have, for example, activists like Vivian Onano, Janet Mbuguya. We have coalitions from Tanzania, Ghana, UK, the Global Menstrual Collective. We also have representatives from the ministry like BMZ, the Procter & Gamble, Carney, WAGS, and many more. So I'm really looking forward to the program with you. Yulia will tell us how you are able to add your voices to this stream. So, Yulia.
Yeah, yeah, right. So as this day is about bringing the community together, even in times, or especially in times of Corona, we of course want you to be part of this live session. So keep on posting, keep on tweeting, keep on sharing our and your content, and show us what you prepared for today in order to add your voice to the movement. And we are really looking forward to all your contributions. So as you may know, our handles are MH Day 28 May on Twitter and Menstrual Hygiene Day on Facebook and Instagram. Our hashtags are It's Time for Action, MH Day 2020, and Periods and Pandemics. So please use them so we can find what you're doing and we can show some of your great pieces here live.
Yeah, so what are we waiting for? Let's get started. And let's get started with our first guest. And I'm really glad we have her with us today. It's Vivian Onano calling in from Kenya. She's a youth activist and a youth advisor, not only to UNESCO, but also really closely engaged with Women Deliver. And hello, Vivian.
Hi, Inga. How are you?
I'm very good. A happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to you.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to you,
too. Showing us, catch us by surprise, but yeah. But you're wearing the bracelet, we see.
I do have my bracelet.
Well, wonderful, because the bracelet you got last year at Women Deliver, where you met Torsten.
Absolutely.
And as I mentioned, and that's why we also invite you, because we know you're really a passionate advocate. And why is menstrual hygiene so important to you?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me today. And I'm so glad that regardless of the pandemic, we still convene together to commemorate this important day. Because as I've said in the past, and I'm going to repeat today, this is a biological cycle. And even with the pandemic, we're not going to stop having our menses just because there's a pandemic, right? Yet we have so many girls who are dropping out of school, so many girls who are selling their bodies so that they can just buy sanitary towels so that they can stay in school. And now that with this pandemic happening right now, the girls who relied on supplies from school, what happens to them? For example, my country in Kenya, right? There's a lockdown. You cannot go into Nairobi, and people in Nairobi cannot come to various parts of the country. So what if you're going to school in Nairobi and now you have to come back home and you relied on school supplies, school to supply you with your sanitary products? So what happens to you? Does your menses stop just because there's a virus, there's a pandemic happening right now? So for me, this is why it's very important for us to have this conversation. And even And now that we are talking about the response to the pandemic, we have to make sure that issues such as menstrual hygiene is at the center. We need to have a gender lens in addressing the recovery plan for post the virus, right? And we have to make sure that issues that sometimes we actually ignore because we think they're too small, but they're actually affecting 50% of our population's lives, have to be put at the center in addressing the post COVID crisis, but also in making sure that girls are able to go back to school and are able to continue living their life with dignity, with pride, with confidence, because this is a biological cycle.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's great that you made the point also that the pandemic at one point will be over, and we still have to continue putting a lot of efforts in making period poverty history. How have you used your voice and your power in the past to create awareness for menstruation? Can you give us some examples and highlight of your work?
Oh, thank you so much. So I've been fortunate enough to travel across the continent. So I've been to Burkina Faso, Mali, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Niger, and some of these countries, girls are really impacted when they start going through their menses, when they get to the adolescent stage, right? So for a country like Burkina Faso, where because of the cultural issues and the religious issues, they still don't have the sexual reproductive health as part of the curriculum in school. It's even a taboo for a teacher to talk about menstruation. So when I visited, I had the opportunity to meet with civil society organizations, but also to meet with the teachers so that we can figure out a way of incorporating this in a manner that doesn't bother the religious leaders, but also make sure that we are not sugarcoating until kids do not even understand what menstruation is and how they can take care of them and what products they can use to do that. And then another good example is Mali. So the first time I visited Mali was with WaterAid. And when we visited their office, they told us the first time they celebrated World Menstrual Hygiene Day, it was a big chaos. It was taboo. The chief in the area did not agree with them. But they still went on and organized the event, right? But the second, and after organizing the event and realizing that it was still a taboo and most people didn't want to attend because the chief was against it and whatnot, they developed a relationship with the chief and the other religious leaders on how to actually address menstrual hygiene and also be an open conversation that can be had anywhere and should not just be had in certain corners and silos and when nobody's watching you and stuff like that. So the good thing is they managed to have the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Gender, other multilateral organizations, the media. They've been able to mobilize all these voices. And now it's a big event in Mali. When it comes to Menstrual Hygiene Day, it's a big event. Everybody comes. Even the chief who was against it at the beginning attends the event. So I think it's all about collaboration and it's all about making people understand where we are coming from with this message, because this is part and parcel of our lives. It's not going to change just because I'm a Christian or just because I'm a Muslim or just because I come from whatever tribe. This is part and parcel of women's life, and we have to figure out how we can openly talk about it. We cannot talk about the health implications that sometimes comes when we use sort of like clothes and all this stuff. You cannot talk about it when there's no conversation and you're not even allowed to talk about your menses. So you find girls suffering in silence. You find a girl dropping out of school, her confidence is lowered, her self-esteem, just because of a biological cycle. And for me, Mali is a good example of how we can mobilize everybody, every voice, and bring them to the table and make them understand how it's important for them to play their role and also understand that this is a biological cycle. Nothing is going to change. It's there and it's going to be there. We'll all go through it. Yeah.
You're totally right. And I really like that you turned the question that I said, how did you use the voice? And then you made it to say really the point that it's not only you, but really the collective and everyone, being a religious leader and so on, to have who can add their voice. And also the second one is to make those voices heard, right? I mean, yes, we talk
Absolutely.
today, especially today, we talk so much about periods, and maybe we sometimes forget that a lot of people, men, young girls, older women, they're not to talk like this. And yeah, need to understand where they're coming from and try to break down those barriers and silence. So yeah, really appreciate.
But also another thing that just to add on to that question too. I mean, forums such as Women Deliver Conference have also been a good opportunity for me to meet with the stakeholders, be it government officials, be it young people, be it civil society group, multilateral agencies, to have the one-on-one dialogues with them and tell them why it's important for us to push for proper menstrual hygiene management in different countries, and also look at girls from rural areas, girls from marginalized groups, girls from informal settlements that are always forgotten. How do you make sure that we address it? So I've also used platforms such as the Women Deliver and many other conferences that I've been to, but also in individual countries when I visit, I have meetings with women, Minister of Gender, Minister of Finance, because there's a finance component to this too. Because the other issue is girls cannot access sanitary towels and all the sanitary products because of the VAT that is imposed on sanitary products. So, and these are conversations that need to be had. So we cannot just have it with Ministry of Gender. We also have to have it with the Ministry of Finance. We have to have it with the Ministry of Education. And that's why I'm telling you, it's important for us to have all hands on deck if we are going to find a sustainable solution that makes sure that no girl is left behind and all girls live in dignity during their menses.
Again, period.
Period.
Period. Vivian, how are you having plans on to advocate for this issue in the future? Is there anything upcoming? Is there any specific issue that you would like to address in the future?
There's no future when it comes to menses. This is an everyday part of our life. It's every day, right? So there's no future actually in this. So for me, it's to continue using my voice and continue taking advantage of different platforms that I continue to have to push for the agenda and also have those conversations. It's uncomfortable conversations, but we need to have them with religious leaders, with government officials, ministers of finance, ministers of education, ministers of health, also with the civil society groups on the ground, youth-led groups on the ground, communities on the ground, for them to understand that this is here to stay. And we have to figure out how to collectively work together to address it, collectively work together to make it an open conversation so that girls do not have to shy, do not have to suffer in silence, do not have to lose their voices and their self-esteem as a result of that. So for me, the advocacy continues. It doesn't stop today. We don't wait for the future. It's an ongoing work and all hands have to be on deck. So I hope that everybody who's watching us continue to use their voice, continue to encourage that young girl who is losing their self-esteem because of their menstruation. Let them know it's a normal, it's a biological cycle. They should be proud of it. They should own it. It's part of their womanhood. And it's part of our life. It's there to stay. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely well heard. Wow. Vivian, you couldn't set up our session better. We couldn't really with you. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time today to join us. I wish you all the best. I'm sure we will be in touch. We will hear from you. And jointly together with the civil society watching, with ministry watching, I hope they all listened loud and clear. We make sure that we exactly do what you advised us. Thank you so much, Vivian. And
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate. Happy World Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Yes, same to you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Goodbye. And all the best.
You.
Wow. She's so cool.
Wow, wasn't that like almost like a keynote speech?
Yeah, it was our keynote speech.
How are we going to top that now at this session?
I'm not so
I
sure.
mean, that's going to be really difficult. I think she just nailed so many points. I mean, like the taboo stigma is the root cause of the problem. You need to start talking about it. What you can't discuss openly, you can't solve. And it's really a cross-sectoral issue. We need to involve not just one department, one ministry. We need to think across education, health, finance, a lot of different aspects to the issue. And it's an ongoing issue. It's like, yeah, today is Menstrual Hygiene Day, but we have to advocate all year round. We have to raise our voices every time we can. And yeah, what a great start. And I think like it raises a lot of the points that I also want to make now when we think a little bit more about what is Menstrual Hygiene Day, why is it there, and also what is the purpose of the session of Studio MH Day that we have here today. So I fully remember this one conversation we had back then, Ina, 7 years ago here in Berlin, when we were talking about what can you do to really break through an issue that is so encrusted in taboo as menstruation was 7 years ago, and really almost nobody was talking about it. And we thought, you know, maybe we need to focus the voices like a laser beam. And then we thought maybe we put, if there was a day, one day where everybody bundled their voices, and we thought, hey, 28 days of a cycle, 5 days of menstruation, 28/5, 28 May, Menstrual Hygiene Day, even rhymes. So then we thought, oh, maybe that's a great idea.
Or
then
a crazy idea.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Then we realized maybe that's maybe more a crazy idea. And then we talked to people and started to have conversation with partners around the world. And people said, no, maybe that is not such a crazy idea. Maybe, you know, we could do that. And we started believing that this could be something, and we started running with the idea, and more organizations agreed to join in. And fast forward 7 years now, and we're a partnership of close to 600 organizations united by one goal: to end period poverty and period stigma, to create a world where no woman and no girl is limited because of her period. We're a movement for change. And Studio MH Day is very closely related to this movement idea. And yeah, it's not about an elaborate show or polished speeches. It's about bringing us, the MH Day movement, together when COVID-19 is forcing us apart. It's about genuine exchange and conversations. It's about enabling us to share and learn from each other. It's about strengthening our joint resolve to create a world where no one is limited from achieving their full potential and realizing their dreams just because they menstruate. And I believe that really our generation is privileged, because we are the first generation that really has the chance, the opportunity to make period poverty and period stigma history. We can do that by 2030. It's up to us, all of us, NGOs, governments, corporates, multilaterals, and everyone who is joining us as an individual citizen, to not just talk, but actually to walk the talk and make it happen. My dream is that 10 years from now, we meet again here in Studio MH Day plus 10, and actually we don't have like 6.5 hours of content anymore, but maybe, you know, we just can talk about that the problem is solved, because together we put period poverty and stigma where it belongs, in the history books. We hope that today will strengthen our courage and resolve to actually make that happen. This year, we introduced the Menstruation Bracelet as a global symbol for menstruation and MH Day. And just like the red ribbon for HIV/AIDS or the rainbow flag for LGBTQ rights, we hope that the symbol of the bracelet will help all of us reach beyond the converted and carry our message into the mainstream of society, because that is where we need to get. We will only break the taboo and the silence and the stigma if we not just talk to ourselves, but if we talk to the people that stigmatize and that hold the taboos, if we include men in the conversation. And about that whole idea of community and reaching out and spreading the message beyond, we'll hear from Yulia in a few seconds. Also, a point, while we already had now a session to practice a little bit, the session on Asia Pacific before. So now this is the second time that Ina and I are actually acting as TV moderators, right? Yes. We did that already once this morning. Yeah. So, but we're still pretty much novices, and this still is very much a live experience. So if there's one thing that we can promise you for sure, there will be glitches. Bear with us and have in mind, this is not about community. This is about community. This is not about perfection. Yeah, and talking about community.
Talking about community.
Yulia, handing over to you.
Yuli's okay too.
Yulia, in English. Oh, we're going. Gonna be Yulia now.
Yeah. So talking about community, I want to give a little insight on how you guys prepared. It was pretty overwhelming because so many of you already crafted their own bracelet or had many creative idea for setting a sign, not only crafting the bracelet, but also working with toothpaste and lipsticks. If you couldn't get, if they couldn't get a bead or the beads right now, maybe because of the COVID situation. And it's so cool to see which solutions all of you made up to set a sign today. And I want to show you some of our Instagram highlights. So if we could switch to my monitor, which we did right now. So what I want to show you is our, as I said, our Instagram highlights. The first thing that you'll see is our GIF that we created to show you how the job could be done. But as I said, you found many other ways. But yeah, so this is the beginning, and then I want to show you some of our favorite pieces. Of course, this whole story will be much bigger after this day when I get the time to add some more great stories to this highlight. But up to today, we found these pieces. So this was the little introduction, make a bracelet. And show your support on 28th May. And here we go with some of your pieces. So, I mean, the beads are, many of you took beads, many of you just took like other materials. The most important thing is the red or the colored highlight. And as you see, there are many creative solutions. So this is one solution from Berlin. It looks like yeah, I don't know I don't really know the material. This is a German actress. Another version with also, of course, it's possible to make it with blue beads. This one was from African youth. So there are. I have enough time, right, to show some more examples. Okay, then we can make it easy. So maybe there will be another example. I think this group here. I actually wanted to contact you, Mama Africa Gift Shop. They went through some regions in, I don't know exactly where in Africa, but they crafted bracelets and they sold it. I guess they had a shop on wheels, on bicycle wheels, and went through the regions and sold the bracelet and have some pretty powerful photos. This one, and also, of course, it's so nice to see. Here we go again with the uterus. The uterus, I have to show it to you right now afterward. No, it's so nice to see that also. Of course, kids take the opportunity, or mothers with kids take the opportunity to craft the bracelets, and so that's what I like. Especially when people don't only use the bracelet in order to set a sign for themselves, but also to create a point for communication, a starting point for communication, not only with local government persons, but also, for example, with the kids. So that's cool. I think it's a pretty nice starting point. You're looking. Are we short on time? No? Okay. So here's a little slideshow going on, you know, and we have some pretty nice. What you can see here is also our gifts that we created for those of you who didn't have the time or I don't know the motivation or didn't know that they could craft a bracelet. But we'll get back to this one later. But this one is a nice picture of Yes, the Yes organization. But not with this one. Oh, and this is also a nice example. We also provided a paper a template for you to print out and to color 5 beads and then use the paper template, the colored out paper template as a bracelet. So also a creative solution that many of you used. So it's pretty nice to see that the material that we provide finds use in any corner of the world. So around the globe, there are people downloading our materials and using them, and they seem pretty happy. You guys seem pretty happy, so we are pretty happy too, I would say. Yeah, this one is from Bhutan. Oh, we need to show. We need to show some more material from Bhutan later on, but yeah. So, and another example from, I guess it's Portugal. And this little guy, I like this little guy. Great example for young little boys who get engaged early on. Yeah. Okay. So
Yulia,
now you got a good impression of what's happening right now with the bracelet. Yeah, I'll show you some nice social media pieces afterwards.
Yeah. Thanks, Yulia. I think it's so inspiring, and we can't wait to hear more.
Yeah.
We also can't wait to hear from our next callers. They're calling in from Tanzania, representing the national coalition that came together. And I welcome Jacinta, who is already there. And we hope that also Robert and Malima will join.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so one of the reasons why I really wanted to also feature Tanzania today is that I really remember fondly the last 2 MH Day in Tanzania. The whole coalition dressed up unisono in a beautiful African fabric, even the men, the women choosing the MH Day colors, and taking wonderful group pictures and also showing how unified your coalition actually is. So yeah, a very warm welcome.
Thank you.
Should we wait for Robert and Malima, or should we?
They're here. Malima was here as well. Robert is connecting. You can see him.
Okay, yeah. So maybe I hope Malima will join anytime, and we can.
You can start with Robert.
But if Robert is not yet here, so that's this show will not be perfect. So, and I know technology can be tricky.
No, but I'm here.
Oh, there's Robert. Hi, Robert.
Here.
Robert is working for the National Institute for Medical Research at the Ministry of Health. Jacinta Chueko, I hope I spelled this wrong, is a social entrepreneur for Kasole Secrets in Tanzania, one of the local pet companies. And we will soon be joined also by Wilhelmina Malima. She's the WASH advisor and national coordinator to WCCC. Okay, let's kick this off. Robert, to you as a researcher,
Yes.
and you know quite well what progress has been made in Tanzania over the last years in the field of menstrual health and hygiene.
Yes. So yes, as we are seeing from our research data, some progress have already been made. Obviously, from the policy side, we have a lot of readiness and in terms of education, training, at least at national level and sub-national levels, has happened. But also you can see in the schools, for instance, you already have some of the schools which have well improved facilities for girls. And we have even evidence of some of the schools putting up essential materials, even though these are very few, but at least we do have a starting point. So I would say something has started to happen.
Adding, welcome Malima to the call, and also MH Day in 2018 has been quite a highlight for you. Can you share what happened there as a coalition when you came together?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. As a coalition, when we came together, and that was really when we had our terms of reference in 2018. So we came together as many members, and our members from different levels. We have from the government ministry, especially the Ministry of Health, Education, local government, and we have members from the UN, from the media, from the academia, and you could see we have even members from the parliament. We are working very closely with our parliamentarians. Yeah. And since our coming together, actually, we have done quite a number of things that we see as the benefits of coming together. One of it is we have managed to voice together for having the removal of the VAT, and then we have, although it came back, but it was a success of the coalition. And we have developed a strategy that is looking on the key pillars that we think if they are addressed, then they can address the gaps that we have. And these are the education awareness, looking on the taboos and social norms and cultural issues, ensuring the products and the facilities. So the strategy is also bringing the efforts of the members of coalition to address the key requirements for the safe menstrual hygiene.
And
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, as you mentioned, coming together to remove the taxes and have joint advocacy messages across the coalition proved to be really successful. And what are your plans for the next years to tackle as a priority? Can you give us some examples?
Our plans, as we have the strategy, and tomorrow we have our annual coalition meeting. We are looking forward to have a new leadership of the coalition and possibly really steered by the government. So the partners will be at the back moving with the government to ensure that these plans that we are putting together are implemented. So there will be a continued effort to involve the members of the parliament to set up the advocacy. For example, with our research, we're looking forward also to develop some advocacy materials that we can continue together to raise the voices and ensure that all those identified gaps in terms of facilities, we are happy that there are special programs. Like now, there is a program upcoming with the Ministry of Education of ensuring that schools will have conducive environment, meaning that they have the facilities to manage the MHL. So these are the plans already with the government going on, having the school wash guideline. So the issue will be to ensure that everyone who is inputting into addressing the issues of MHL is following what is there put by the government.
Yeah. And as you just mentioned, it's good to have a strategy because everybody buys into that and you have a clear plan forward. Maybe now a question to Hyacinta. Hyacinta, how has MH Day been celebrated in Tanzania so far?
Yeah, thank you so much. This year, because of COVID, it was not easy for us to collect people and discuss with so many people together in one room or in certain confined places. So what we did this year is we used social networks, but we also used the local radios in the district level as well as in the region level. And this will be the very good opportunity even for the media houses at the regional and the district level to also engage into menstrual health and hygiene discussion, because they're inviting different speakers to come and speak about menstrual health and hygiene for different topics, but also to give them a sense of awareness that them as the media houses, they have a role to play, and going forward, we expect that they will be the one searching for us to celebrate for Menstrual Hygiene Day to the media houses as well. But happy as well that people at their local areas as well will be able to get this education.
Yeah, you stress an extremely important point. Now everybody seems to be online, and a lot of Twitter chat, webinars are happening. But there's also a lot of people, and I just say people because it's women, boys, men, the entire community who doesn't have that good access. And their information and reaching them is really important, and finding ways like radio is a really good means. And I heard also you're maybe launching a media award, right?
Yeah, Mama Lima, do you want to speak something about it?
Yeah, we have had a webinar. Maybe I will talk a little bit, but we had really inclusive participation of the panelists. We had the a member of parliament. We have a representative from the umbrella organization for people with disabilities. We had from the government, and we had the presentation on the research that was done in relation to availability of the product costing. So it was really quite inclusive, and a number of people participated.
Good. Yeah, excellent. So we're looking forward to the outcomes. Please share when they come in. We're almost at the end of our time. I think I really also appreciate that we have with Robert also a man joining the group, really passionate about the issue. I wish you all the best. Have a very good rest of the MH Day. And thank you for calling in. Habari sana. Asante sana. Goodbye, Malima, Robert, and Jacinta. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, it's great to see like how local national partners are trying to find workarounds around the COVID crisis, right? And not everybody can use internet and online resources and reach the people that are marginalized and often like living in like rural or like remote areas. So finding ways like media collaborations, radio partnerships is, yeah, it can be very effective to make sure that the message still gets out beyond the urban areas that are well connected to the internet. Yeah, great to hear the efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And our next guests are actually from Ghana. It's a pre-recorded video I did yesterday with Nana Esi Inkum. She's the director of the Ghana Education Service. I pre-recorded the interview because today they have also a big MH Day festival. She was on TV, etc. So I really appreciate her taking the time. Ghana Education Service has also celebrated MH Day over the last 3 to 4 years with wonderful events, and therefore I'm happy to show the interview with her. And yeah, please.
Over the last years, we've had education on menstrual hygiene as part of our co-curricular activities. And it was launched in 2017 under the caption, "Be Amazing, period." So that was a campaign that we had. And it targets both boys and girls, so that the girls will be educated on how to take care of themselves during their menstrual period. And then the boys will be given the education to support the girls during their menses. And then we also target parents who will be able to support their children, because it's the parents who are supposed to provide the menstrual materials for the girl. And so we target all these people so that the girls can be comfortable when they are in their menses and be able to attend school. The girls are educated on the importance of not missing school. We let them know that menstruation is not a disease, that even in their menses, they can take good care of themselves. Even when they are having problems, the way they will handle themselves and then go to school so that they don't miss school. So all these materials have been made, and they are shared and used in line with the minimum standards for washing schools in Ghana. In addition to this, some people are not able to provide for the disposable menstrual pads, the disposable ones. And so through the help of partners, the students are taught how to make reusable pads so that they can wash them well, have them well sanitized, and then they can use it as often as possible. That is cheaper or more affordable, let me put it that way, so that the girls can take good care of themselves during their menstruation. As part of Ghana Education Service efforts to, and with support from partners, it has become necessary to provide for wash facilities, washrooms for the girls, because they will stay in school when they have a place to change, when they are in their menses. They will stay in school when they have a place they can put themselves together. And when they need to change, they need a changing room where they can do that. And so we advocate the building of toilets with changing rooms that are gender and disability friendly, so that all levels of students in Ghana will be well catered for. So Ghana has done a lot, and there's provision of water, either through the Ghana Water Company for the pipe water to flow to the schools, or where these are not available, some have boreholes dug for them so that they can have access to water and be able to use it. And this support is done through the help of district SHEP coordinators who are in charge of the districts, who supervise the health activities in the schools. They supervise the school-based health coordinators. These are teachers in the schools who, together with the head teachers, ensure that health facilities in schools are well managed and kept, and the wash facilities, or should I say hygiene issues in the school, are well maintained. So in a nutshell, these are some of the things that Ghana is doing and has done.
Thank you, Nana, for sharing. I really appreciate you having, first of all, a strategy behind it, and then that you start with education, but you don't stop there. You also look for the products and also the facilities. And I think we haven't heard a lot about this, that you still today, and also in the last conversations around MHM, and also water is really essential to maintain hygiene. And yes, we're in the midst of a pandemic, and their water is essential for all of us, not only and also for menstrual hygiene. So these are really great examples. And now looking into the future, what are your plans or actions that you want to take in the coming years?
We know that not every school is covered. So we want to scale up our activities to the different schools. In fact, we have taken the bracelet very seriously, because it's a very easy way of helping the girls to calculate their menses when it will start, so that they don't miss to saw themselves. And so with this bracelet, it's not only for the girls, but anybody who wants to do advocacy can use the bracelet for advocacy. And so for the coming years, apart from the bracelet, we also continue to engage parents. We even want to do messaging. At present, the students are home. So we want to do messaging through radio and then on TV, so that while they are home, when they turn on their televisions, at least they will have messages on menstrual hygiene to let them know that even in COVID, we still have our menses. The menses do not stop. And so they need to take action and take care of themselves. And so with the way forward, we'll scale up on our activities on menstrual hygiene education in the school. We'll also, with support from our ministry, see how well every school will have water. All the washrooms will have Veronica buckets attached to them so that the girls can keep themselves clean. With the support of the health teachers, class teachers, we are hoping to have this well maintained so that the students can take good care of themselves. We also consider the girls, because they lose blood, there's a tendency of them being anemic. And so we have a program where the girls are given iron folate tablets. So we will continue with the education to ensure that these girls take these tablets. And then we also will do nutrition education for them to be able to combine foods well. This education will be to both the students, because sometimes some of them buy food from canteens, and then to the parents during PTA meetings, so that they will pay more attention to their girls or to their families, so that they will be able to provide nutritious meals for their children to be able to eat and eat well, to keep healthy and be able to attain their educational outcome.
And my last question to both of you actually is, so what is your message from Ghana to the global menstrual movement watching today?
Okay. What Ghana is saying is that together, the whole nation should support our girls and women in their during their menses, in their menstrual period. They should give them all the necessary support they need, because the girls are assets to our nation. They shouldn't have any misconceptions or anything that will be a taboo to prevent the girls from coming out boldly to know that they are also girls who have their rights, who can do everything at the right time. And so we need support. We need everybody together to help move menstrual hygiene management forward in Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you. Apia?
Yeah, I will echo what has been said by our director. In Ghana, it's this massively multi-sectoral approach that has really helped to address very quickly and swiftly a lot of the menstrual health issues that are plaguing women and girls in Ghana. And so from us, our message is just to understand that you are not alone, that each and every one of us menstruate. It's a beautiful thing, and continue to enjoy that time of the month and recognize the benefits and the amazing reasons as to why we menstruate. We're really wanting to just hone in on that message and just continue to remove the stigma and the limitations that women and girls face.
And we're back now in the studio, and it's really great to hear from a Western African country, Ghana, about their achievements. So I'm turning now to Torsten, because he has some exciting content to share.
Yeah, you're going to be in for a treat right now. You're going to see our Crowdsource global campaign video for MHJ 2020. We had tons of amazing contributions from partners around the world, and our studio was spoiled for choice, and unfortunately, not everybody, of course, could get in the video, but they, I think, created a fantastic narrative that really, really highlights the power of the MHJ movement in all its diversity and commitment. And yeah, without further ado, let's go.
Gizma. Lang nagtam?
I want a world where every woman and girl can enjoy their sexual and reproductive health and rights and not be limited by their periods.
It's 2020. No girl, no woman should be held back because she menstruates.
I want a world where we can talk about periods openly with no fear.
I want open conversations about menstruation, and I want all men and boys to be supportive.
It's time for men to help destigmatize menstruation.
I believe we should try and overcome all kinds of social taboos that are out there in this 21st century.
I want all disabled girls and women to have access to pads, menstrual hygiene management, education, and period-friendly facilities everywhere.
We need inclusion of all women and girls with disabilities as we develop menstrual hygiene products and infrastructure.
Sanitation facilities have to be accessible to all menstruators. Leave no one behind.
We need equality.
It's time for action.
We need women's solidarity.
It's time for action.
I want to see a world where taxes on period products are scrapped.
안전하고 생태적이고 저렴한 월급용품이 필요합니다.
Countries remove taxes on pads to make them affordable for everyone.
All women and girls around the world should be able to afford any menstrual hygiene product of their choice.
Good menstrual hygiene enables women and girls to reach their full potential.
Increased investment in research for better menstrual health and hygiene for all.
So it's now time to increase our investment in MHM.
It's time for cross-sectoral menstrual health programming for all.
I want to live in a world where no girl is stopped from having an education because of her period.
Every girl should have information about menstruation before their first period.
I strongly agree that periods should end a sentence and not a girl's education.
At Always, we want every girl to be able to manage her period with confidence. It's time for action.
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 Time for action.
It's time for action. Act now.
For sexual and reproductive health and rights.
For girls' education.
For human rights.
For women's and girls' health.
For economic development.
For gender equality.
It's time for action.
Wasn't that like an amazing video? Really, really exciting. And I'm equally excited now to have on the line now Charlotte Lefrefy, Global Social Impact Program Leader, Always and Whisper at Procter & Gamble. Hello, Charlotte. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Hello, happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Great to have you.
It's great to be here.
Charlotte, P&G and Always has been a key partner of MHD for the last 4 years. Can you tell us a bit more about the broader global social impact mission of P&G and Always and how Menstrual Hygiene Day fits into that?
Of course. So we're thrilled to have been a partner for Menstrual Hygiene Day for the past 4 years. At Always and Whisper, we're really focused on ensuring that no girl loses confidence at puberty because of her gender or her period. And we do that by focusing on 3 key things. The first is all around tackling the societal barriers to her confidence. So the things that society often inadvertently does that can damage her confidence at puberty. And I know we've spoken a lot about it today already, but that includes the pervasive stigma and negativity that still surrounds periods. And we might think it's a harmless joke or like something that we just brush under the carpet, but it really has a big impact on girls at puberty, and it's something we need to challenge. The second focus area of ours is all around puberty and confidence education. So making sure that girls are prepared for what they're going to go through and know how to deal with it. But it's really not just about providing education to girls, because we also need to include boys and men and broader society so that everyone can understand what a period is and why do we get them, and the fact that they are a normal, healthy part of development. So that it will help again with pillar 1 of like really breaking down the stigma. And then the third key focus area of Always and Whisper is really on ensuring and enabling access to period products, whether that be through having the right products available in the right places through our retail partners, but also through donations and partnerships with charities around the world to make sure that we are also serving those most in need day in, day out. And so that clearly there's such a huge crossover between what Always and Whisper do and the objectives of Menstrual Hygiene Day and what you guys and WASH do, because like we're all here to break that silence around period. We all want to raise awareness of the barriers that prevent girls in education, and take collective action and kind of like rally everybody in that vision.
Great, excellent. And I mean, like you run, like, for instance, you mentioned your education program. It's a huge program. I think it's like one of the biggest in the world. And I mean, like you've been doing it for a very, very long time. But I mean, like if you, for instance, look at like back at the last year, can you share some of the highlights from your social impact work, specifically from the last year? And then, of course, we'd also love to hear what's going on today on MH Day?
Of course. I mean, it's certainly been a very busy year for us at Always and all of our teams around the world, especially in the last few months, as we've focused on how do we continue to ensure that people can meet their MHH needs during this pandemic. So if I look at just the last few months, our teams have been very much focused on ensuring that we have a consistent supply of period products despite all the disruption. And that's, again, both through our retail partners, but donating to those in need. And so many charities and food banks have seen a huge increase in demand of period products, obviously as unemployment rises. So far we've committed over $2 million worth of product and monetary donations to help support that need. If I look at Europe, we've donated 8 million products to food banks. We have a big partnership with the International Federation of the Red Cross and other local NGOs. And if I look at some of our countries in Africa, we have been working closely with, especially like the department and ministries of health in countries like Kenya, to make sure that we have a coordinated response from the actors on the ground. And then also in the context of COVID, but like building on that, like, as you mentioned, our long-standing puberty and confidence education program, we are now doubling down on our efforts of, as schools are closing and as kids aren't getting that education necessarily from the methods that they would normally, how do we make sure we still enable kids and their carers to get that education? So we've done things like launched a new parent hub on our website in the UK. We've actually just launched a new app in Turkey, which is providing education. And then we are also providing free virtual consultations with menstrual health experts, because obviously there's an increased nervousness amongst a lot of people to go to see doctors and look at their sexual reproductive health needs during this pandemic. So yeah, it's been a busy few months, but obviously periods don't stop because of pandemics. And if I look at the work we're doing on Menstrual Hygiene Day, it's such a great opportunity to continue to raise awareness and help tackle the period stigma. So obviously we've been helping to drive awareness of the menstruation bracelet, which is a great visual tool to really like spark those conversations. And then we've also been using, I mean, our own team at Always to promote an open dialogue. So if you go onto our social channels or some of our other platforms, you will see we have a whole team of Always talking about their first period experience and what it's like. And like just a fun way to like get people talking and show that it shouldn't be stigmatized. So yeah, it's been a busy few months.
I watched that video last night and I was really, you know, like, wow, you know, like you have like whatever your senior leaders for FemCare at a global level talk about their first period. I found that pretty bold, and which is great. Really, really cool stuff. I mean, now, you know, we always think a little bit from, you know, like MHD to MHD, and it's always like also like a good kind of like time span to ask our partners, so guys, what do you have in the pocket, you know, like when you're looking for the next year, MHD 2021, do you already have kind of like plans of what you want to achieve like within the next 12 months that you can share with us now?
Yeah, I mean, in short, it's much more of the same. So continuing to focus on those three pillars. I think first things first is doubling down on our puberty and confidence education effort. So as we think about a world where distance learning and virtual learning is going to be more common, how do we best provide education in that situation? And in some countries you can do that digitally. I mean, in some countries, as you guys were just talking, it needs to be other ways, like through radio or other forms of education. I think the other thing that we're going to be looking at very closely between now and next Menstrual Hygiene Day is the best way to include boys in the conversation, because it's great to see over the last few years that there's an increasing acknowledgement that we need to include them, but we have just completed some research in Kenya, and we will be publishing it shortly, so I'll make sure that everyone has the access to it. But the research in Kenya, we looked at the impact of MHH authenticity and hope. And what we saw was in the situations where you just straight included the boys and girls in the same classroom, we didn't see such a big uplift in those measures of confidence of girls. So clearly there's a dynamic there that needs further exploration of, we all agree it's very important to educate boys, but what's the right way of doing it such that you haven't...
way to do it,
the right way to do it. So that's going to be a big focus of ours. And then we are very happy to continue and work hard on providing products to people in need. And so over the next year, we're targeting to donate another 50 million period products to people in need around the world. So building on what we've done so far, but there's obviously much more to do.
Awesome, Charlotte. I have to skip question 4 now because we actually have gone over time and the next guest is waiting in line. But that was just like really, it was a great conversation. We could have continued for like 10 more minutes. Thank you, Charlotte, so much for joining us. And really, happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. And thanks for your partnership. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Bye, Charlotte. And what I really liked is, you sharing the example that it's not only something they do out to the outside world, or also internally within the organization to mobilize their own staff. And that could be like good models for also other companies, not only menstrual product companies, but anyone.
Absolutely.
Thorsten, you are also in the next call.
Yes. So let us find out like how we do that now exactly. Ina, I will need your technical expertise here.
Maybe I could show you, in the meantime I can show you.
Oh yeah.
So if we could, I could switch, I'm now switching to my screen. So I mean, now it's 3 p.m. in Berlin, so MH Day is really ongoing, and we have some interesting tweets from people with a really high reach, using their reach in order to spread the word, that I am going to show you after, or maybe we can we can have a look at this one. I mean, you already see it. Vikas Khanna is actually a famous chef in India. I think he's also cooking in TV, and he's tweeting, though there is so much more to do. Today I wanted to celebrate securing distribution of over 1 million sanitary napkins in 8 cities. He did that together with 2 organizations. And he's celebrating World Menstrual Hygiene Day. Then we also have Shashi Tharoor, who's a writer and a former UN diplomat. He retweeted a tweet of the Indian Congress. this one we have the Ministry of Health. Yeah, that was what where I wanted to go. The Ministry of Health from Kenya, where they wish us a happy Menstrual Hygiene Day, which I find pretty special. They say this year MH Day 2020 recognizes that periods don't stop for pandemics and will continue to drive home the idea of it's time for action. I really like that one. And also, I saw I could refresh this site, but a few minutes ago we were a trending topic on Twitter in India. We were on the 18th place. Yeah. Menstrual Hygiene Day. I can because we're a live show. Let's have a look. Maybe I hope we're a bit better now. But I mean, the 18th place is great too. And of course, one of our little highlights is Akshay Kumar, who is a really famous Bollywood actor. He played Padman. If you haven't seen the film, he was the main character in Padman, which is a really great film. Have a look at it after this live stream. Yeah, he tweeted that it's been 2 years to Padman, so that's the movie, and I'm glad we managed to push the envelope a little on this taboo subject. This Menstrual Hygiene Day, I hope we move a step closer towards ending period poverty and breaking taboos surrounding menstruation. And I mean, if Akshay Kumar is tweeting such a strong, powerful message, yeah, that really means something, and a lot of people are going to see this. That's really a great support. Actually, in case you're watching this stream or anyone is telling you about it, thanks a lot. Are we good now? Or I mean, I can continue. Okay, then back to Thorsten.
Okay, thanks, Jule, for this exciting update. Our next guest is Yulia Lehman, who is the Director of Human Resources and Operation at management consulting firm Carney, where she's responsible for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So I don't have her.
She was there.
She was there, but now she's not.
But in the meantime,
there's some more news from social media.
No,
okay,
I really.
Oh, she's there.
Oh,
she's
okay,
she's
there. I know.
Okay. Okay. Mia? I can't hear her.
Maybe she has to be unmuted.
You can hear me.
I can hear her.
Mirja, now there you are. Now, hello, nice to see you finally. So I'm going to announce you again. Mirja Lehman, Director of Human Resources and Operation at management consulting firm Carney, where you're responsible for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We're glad to have you. And sorry you were one of the first technical glitches in the afternoon session.
Yeah, no worries, not at all. Excited to be here finally.
A warm welcome and happy MH Day, Mirja.
Happy.
So, Mirja, management consulting firms like Carney don't typically appear in live streams about periods, right? Tell us, Mirja, why are you and Carney passionate about the topic and what brought you to the issue?
So if techniques works, we're happy to be there. And indeed, so in general, Carney is very committed to gender equality in general. And that is one of the core social issues that we try to promote within the company, but also externally to our community. And in general, we believe that no woman or girl should be held back by any topics like period. And this is why we're here and try to promote and support it.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit more about what Carney has been doing on the issue of menstrual health and hygiene so far?
Yeah, so in 2019, so almost a year ago, our team decided that they want to support this initiative, and they teamed up with Wash United, basically, to explore the general economic impact of poor menstrual hygiene and health. And that the basic assumption was basically that the stigma and shame that surrounds menstruation still somehow, and the lack of products or infrastructure, that this has really direct effect and direct impact on the economic situation of companies, but also for our social community. And therefore, we decided to go a little bit deeper and support this. And currently, we are consolidating all this research on a larger report. And I'm somewhat thrilled to announce that we will co-publishing with you basically a report about this, about menstrual hygiene for companies and for economies by June, July 2020. And that this will be then available for everybody. So, I mean, I think, well, I can't go into the details yet. The key message is really that this topic has a huge impact on companies as well as the social community. Difficult to really amount to monetize, but I think everyone knows that this is a half of the population, and this really has the impact on this. So our report, our Together report, leads to the conclusion that it's basically time for action for companies like us, our clients, but also for any other company to create a more period-friendly environment to really explore the full potential of all our stuff around us.
Yeah, and that's super exciting, because what we often see is that a financial argument helps with different kinds of decision makers. Like a few years ago in the sanitation sector where we also work, research came out from the World Bank that started to monetize investment made in sanitation in terms of like economic returns, and it really helped change the thinking in finance ministries and got a lot more people into the conversation. So I'm personally really excited at seeing our joint research come out in June, July, because it has the potential to be really a transformative advocacy tool. That's, yeah, very exciting, and thanks for your partnership on that. Beyond that, what are your plans for the future? Because you just joined the MHD partnership. I'm sure that is not the end of the story, that report.
No, indeed not. Indeed not. So as a consultancy, we're always thinking ahead, basically.
Sure.
Indeed, we just joined the partnership, and we want to continue on that. So after the launch of the report, obviously, we have a huge network. We would like to spread the report, and we'd like to leverage the report and the findings with our clients, with our partners, in order to draw more attention on this topic. And we believe that there's a great benefit for companies, for clients, on the business to become more period friendly, to think about this topic, to just increase the awareness of this topic, and really to basically tackle the challenges ahead. And one of the key factors in increasing this attention is indeed the Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Great. I was told we're running late. We've been talking too much, Mirja. So we have to skip the last question because we have a very tight schedule. So thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Happy. All
right. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, what I found really impressive is that we have now more allies in the arena, right? Like we have allies that we never thought about this before, consulting companies that are normally doing something completely different. And remembering what Vivian said, you need to think also about other actors, because not only about experts, but really bring those in. So I think this is a really
beyond
the bubble. But moving quickly to the social media bubble. Yulia, what's happening there?
Yeah, I got a little message from France, actually, that I need to, I guess I need to show you, because it's pretty nice. Let's have a look.
Bonjour, je suis Delphine O, je suis de la génération égalité et je crois dans un monde où les règles ne sont pas un tabou. Il n'y a pas honte d'avoir ces règles et surtout où les règles ne sont pas un obstacle pour l'accès à l'éducation, l'accès à l'emploi et la vie quotidienne des jeunes filles et des femmes. C'est pourquoi l'année prochaine, nous organisons le Forum Génération Égalité où se rassembleront tous les féministes du monde et tous ceux qui se battent pour l'égalité entre les femmes et les hommes dans le monde au quotidien.
Sag du mal, es war das längere, das grüne. Here we go. Another längere, yeah.
Okay.
So who was that?
That is Delphine O, ambassador of the Generation Equality Forum, that was supposed to happen this year in Paris, the biggest gender conference ever, postponed to next year. So it's amazing to see that this gender equality leader, and yeah, the person who basically is responsible for organizing this platform, is a champion for menstrual hygiene management.
Yeah, really
so
cool.
yeah, we look forward to working with the French government and Delphine O and Marlene Schiappa, the State Secretary for Gender Equality, who also sent us a short message.
Yeah, if we have the time, I think I have. No, we don't.
We
But thank
don't.
you very much for this very message.
Yeah, to actually use the opportunity of the Generation Equality Forum next year to work towards a world where periods are normal. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. So then back to
our
the
next guest. Yes, we're waiting in line because we're a little bit delayed. But thank you for waiting. And it's now to Lorna Tallaween, who is the Global Program Manager for the World Association for Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, in brief WAGS. And Akisa Baluti, who is a YES program intern, but also she's an MHM master trainer for WAGS based in Uganda, but she's from Malawi. And a very warm welcome, a happy MH Day to you. It's time for action now for you.
Thank you. Happy MH Day from England to everyone tuned in.
MH Day from Uganda.
So just quickly, like WAGS is an abbreviation, but what stands behind WAGS, Lorna?
Yeah, sure. So WAGS stands for the World Association of Girl Scouts and Girl Guides. So we're the largest voluntary movement in the world, representing guides and scouts, representing women and girls worldwide. And we mainly focus on non-formal education programs, community action, and building leadership skills for young women and girls.
And you took on menstrual hygiene as one of those issues just recently, and it's through a really innovative approach, and we're really looking forward to learn more how you really address education around menstruation through your programs in countries.
Sure, yeah, so we're really excited. In 2019, we kind of launched this education program around menstrual hygiene in partnership with WASH United. So we've got Rosie's World, have a copy here, Rosie's World, which is our non-formal education program. It's basically an activity book. It's story-led. It's full of really fun, really engaging activities. It's delivered kind of mainly through a youth leader peer-to-peer mechanism through the guiding units. And we, once the girls have trained and they've gone through all of the activities in the book, they then are empowered to feel period positive and have what we call red pride. And that means that they can then take action. So each girl, having gone through the process themselves and kind of discovered this inner confidence around menstruation, she then takes it upon herself in small groups or alone to train 2 other girls. So she's reaching out in her community. And once she's done that, she is awarded her Red Pride badge, which she wears proudly on her uniform.
Love
it. it's fantastic. Yeah, and it looks like a bracelet, I know. And this snowball system is pretty amazing if one imagine how large your association actually is. And Akisa has been part of that program. Maybe Akisa, you can very quickly share one of the highlights or one of the impact you've seen from that program already.
Maybe one of the impact which I can share, the YES program being in African continent and also in Asia continent, where actually girls and women, they don't feel free to share about menstruation, maybe to talk. There's a lot of stigma about menstruation. So many girls who come for the exchange, actually, when they are coming, they come when they know nothing. I'll give an example, like experience shared by a girl from Nepal who is currently in Tanzania. For her, when she started her period, she didn't know anything about menstruation, and nobody told her about menstruation. She was just in her own world. When she started period, she thought it was a disease, And then she told her, she was just saying maybe it will end. After seeing that the following day it came again, she now decided to talk to her mother. And then her mother told her, don't worry, it will be coming each and every month. It was very scary for her. And in Nepal, it's the country which menstruation materials are very scary, like they cannot find them. They are very expensive. So her mom gave her a cloth to be using when going to school, but it was hard for her to go with that to school because each time when she's standing up, she has to make sure that someone is standing behind her to see whether she has soaked herself. So this makes a lot of girls in Nepal not to go to school, to wait until their menstruation is done, which actually affect their education. But now she's one of the participants. She was trained in January on menstruation. Now she's very confident. She has been training girls in Tanzania, and she's actually ready to go back and break the stereotype about menstruation with other girls in her community.
Wow, it's a really peer-to-peer approach. It's a really country-to-country cultural learning that you have established there. And we're looking forward to learn what are your next plans, Lorna. Maybe you can share some of the ideas for the next years, how you want to still keep up with the theme of menstrual hygiene.
Yeah, so we've been really lucky in that we've worked with a great number of fantastic organizations across the guiding movement. So we're currently live in 10 countries, but working with 11 national guiding organizations. So just shout out to the MOs working on this. That's Burundi, Madagascar, Malawi, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And across those countries, we've been able to reach 27,000 girls so far with this program. So we're incredibly pleased with that. And we've had brilliant feedback from the girls about how this has kind of changed their feelings about themselves and their level of confidence in the activities that they can do in life. But it's not really enough, and we need to keep going. So we have a movement of 10 million girls. So obviously our next step is now we've tested it, we need to scale it up. So we're looking at kind of global MHM plans, particularly in the Africa and Asia Pacific region initially, but then, yeah, a global pack.
And I think, yeah, that's with your experience, we're looking forward to achieve that. I unfortunately need to wrap up a little bit, but I still want to give Akisa the opportunity to tell one or two sentences from the Red Pride Week that, or the Red Pride Month almost, that the Yes Girls did this year.
Okay, so we normally have the menstruation week each and every. We normally have menstruation week each and every year, but this year it was a little bit different because of the COVID-19. But the girls in different countries, they are 11 host countries. The girls really tried hard to bring awareness on social medias, doing skits, making people to do some pledges, bringing awareness, and also making sure that even though there's COVID-19, the spreading of menstruation awareness should not stop, because this is the time when girls are actually suffering. Like, they don't have anyone to talk to, they don't have confidence to ask for the parents to include the menstruation material use during this lockdown. So we are trying to give confidence and awareness for girls to gather the courage and do this without fear.
Thank you. I think that's a great concluding message. And you shared with us some videos, which we will definitely upload on our website together with the stream, so our audience can really see how positive and how motivating and creative as well the Yes Girls and the Girl Guides are now talking about periods and encouraging others to follow. So I thank you, Lorna and Akisa, for a bit short talk today, but I'm really glad that we had representation of you in today's show. Yeah. And
very much for having us.
Yeah, and have a good rest of today. I will talk to Ines in the evening, because you also did you're doing the U report together with UNICEF, which we're going to look at some results. Okay, have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that is so inspiring, no? I mean, it's like when we're looking at WAGs and their movement, we're talking about millions and millions of girls that are willing to dedicate their spare time to actually become champions for change in their communities. And the thought of making sure that they are empowered to manage their menstruations without shame and with confidence, and going out there committed to share that with others, is just like, that's a movement again, right? That of peer-to-peer educators, that is, which I find has the potential to really accelerate change at scale.
Yeah. Absolutely, and yeah, very good, great role models
great role models.
Yeah. We're staying in the UK, where Lorna called from, and we're calling in to the Period Poverty Task Force, represented by Emily Wilson, the CEO of IRIS International. She's busy today with their own live stream, which I also called in earlier. So I agreed with her to pre-record my interview with her about how the Period Poverty Task Force and how the coalition of actors in UK are really active, because I think it's important to get also a European perspective into coalitions. To the video.
My next guest is Emily Wilson. She's the CEO of IRIS, an international NGO who also works in UK but also outside the UK. She's part of the Period Poverty Task Force in UK, and I'm really interested to talk to her about how the movement in the UK is actually advancing period poverty and addressing the issue through awareness and advocacy really strongly. We have pre-recorded this video because she has her own live stream event today. So therefore, I really appreciate her taking the time to do this interview. Welcome, Emily, and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Hi, happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. We're so excited to be involved again this year. I thought I'd start by just talking about some of the highlights and successes of the advocacy work in the UK over the last 5 years, because I mean, today's about celebrating, and I think in the UK we really have achieved a lot, and it's been really exciting. So here are some of my kind of favourite moments. So I think back in 2015, I think we had our first kind of big success with the tampon tax. So the government pledged to channel funds towards charities that support women, but obviously that's not enough, and it's really exciting that they've now announced that the tampon tax will be dropped at the end of 2020, and that's really a culmination of sort of over a decade of advocacy from a whole host of different stakeholders. So another really big highlight, I think, for everyone in the UK was Plan UK's Breaking the Barriers report in 2018, and that really put this issue on the in the mainstream for the first time. And so some of the key findings from that report, which consulted with girls across the UK, was that 48% of girls feel embarrassed by their period, 27% had overused a menstrual product because they couldn't afford a fresh one, and 49% of girls had missed an entire day of school because of their period. And this report really catalysed some of the other work I'm going to talk about. In particular, we've started to see a lot more research, a lot more learning, looking at how this issue affects people in the UK. But we do need more work, and some of the areas that a recent review with Danny Barrington has highlighted are that we really need to do more to understand marginalised groups, and we really need to do more to test interventions and understand kind of what works, what kind of policies and programmes are really going to deliver impact for people with periods over the next few years. But some of the big things that came off the back of that report, so menstrual health education from 2020 in the UK, menstrual wellbeing education is going to be included in relationships and sex education for primary and secondary school children of all genders. The government also launched their Period Poverty Task Force, which Ina mentioned. We met for the first time in July 2019, and our aim is to end period poverty and shame in the UK by 2025. We're doing that through 3 strands. So one is around improved data and evidence, which is my baby. The others are tackling stigma and shame, and also ensuring access for all in terms of menstrual products. And this whole initiative was part of a government campaign to end period poverty and shame globally by 2030. So everything we're doing in the UK is also going to help the global movement really kind of sort out this issue for people with periods for good. Yeah, So there you go. There's our highlights of the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's extremely impressive, and I think I want other countries in Europe and about really watching UK in building the coalition, leading by government strategies and dedication to form and lead those task force. And I hope other countries will follow, including Germany, a little bit. You already mentioned some of the issues you unearthed in a strategy meeting. So what are the challenges you as a group of coalition, but also within the period poverty task force that you want to tackle in priority in the next years?
So I think for everybody, coronavirus has really changed the landscape. And I think we're already seeing the pandemic making the situation worse for girls. So Plan UK have released another report looking at some of the early impacts of this crisis on girls. And they found 11% of girls aged 14 to 21 haven't been able to afford period products during the kind of lockdown period. And 1 in 10 women in the same age bracket haven't been able to access their usual form of contraception. So already we're starting to see this crisis affecting their kind of fundamental rights to kind of control their body with dignity and comfort. And so I think our priority is to really make sure that periods and other gender sensitive needs are not forgotten during the pandemic response. And alongside that, to try and make sure that all this fantastic policy and advocacy work can continue, and that needs to continue during the crisis and its aftermath, because actually the challenges that the people that are affected by period inequality experience, they're being made worse by this. So we need to double our efforts and really make sure that we're making their voices heard, and we're making sure that their period related and gender specific needs are being met.
Thanks. That's a really powerful message, and also an ask to move beyond what we're doing. Yeah, you also were part of a recent webinar with the period posse, where you talked about this in detail, so we can link to that if people want to know a little bit more on the impact, and also can share some other links. So my final question, I mean, you already stated so much powerful messages, but really, what is your personal message to the global movement watching today?
So this is, I'm afraid I'm going to reiterate what I've said before, because I think it's a really important message, and it needs to be said again and again, really. But I think period equality, it's about power. It's not just about pads. And actually the reason we care about periods is because the fact that they're neglected is a symptom of an inequality in power. You know, people who have power and people who don't. And actually the biological reality of being female becomes a handicap in a system where girls' voices and the voices of other marginalized groups aren't heard and their needs aren't met. And actually we're in a situation now where that bias system is under intense pressure. And I think we know that inadvertently decisions are going to be made that disadvantage those vulnerable groups and that make their voices harder to hear. And so we need to not just think about material provision, we need to not just think about pads, we need to recognise that actually those of us who understand and care about period inequality, we can offer much more than pads. And we need to use our insight and our experience to restore power and voice to those vulnerable people with periods, so that they're not forced to suffer unnecessarily through neglect and oversight during this period. And then it's our role and our responsibility not just to give pads, that is really important, it's fantastic we're doing that, but we really need to make sure that we're restoring power to those groups. Period.
Period. Thank you, Emily.
Welcome back. I really enjoyed talking to Emily, and I look forward to talk to my next guests, which is Therese Mahan. She's the Regional Program Manager, South Asia for WaterAid, based in UK, and Virginia Kamova, Senior Global Advocacy Officer for WSSCC, based in Geneva. And both of them are chairing the Global Menstrual Collective and leading that, where WASH United is also part. So my first question to you is, what is the Global Menstrual Collective?
Good afternoon, Ina. The Global Menstrual Collective was formed with a purpose to drive and guide increased and improved investment in menstrual health and hygiene through evidence-based advocacy. It was actually co-created by a diverse group of partners, stakeholders from across the globe. who came together in March 2019 here in Geneva.
That's a very, very precise goal. But so you said it came together a year ago, but why has it formed at all? And what are some of the strategies that you're going to implement in the future?
Yeah, in September, so that's a year before last year, 2018, the Water Supply and Sanitation Collaborative Council, which is the organization that I work for, proposed to co-establish with partners the collective to connect different interests, commitments, and expertise around menstrual health and hygiene. And with all the global attention towards menstrual health and hygiene issues, it was recognized as something that is an opportunity, because with the different noise being made and the momentum, it needed necessary harnessing. So that is why it was formed. And during the March meeting, the lack of sufficient evidence-based investment was identified as the biggest obstacle to accelerating progress and achieving results around menstrual health and hygiene.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more, because if as a global coalition has to address a global issue, it was really identified as something that we really want to work collectively for, to drive investment, necessary and better investment. And it's been a busy year for the collective, and maybe Therese, you can share with us what has been achieved over the year and what were some of the highlights.
Yeah, thanks, Ina. It has been a really fantastic year, and it's been fantastic because of the energy and effort and expertise of all our members. Virginia and I are the coordination team, but the collective really works through this collective effort of everybody involved. So huge thanks to everyone, including Wash United. This first year has really been about establishing the collective and also taking those sort of first collective actions towards driving investment. So in terms of the first area, setting ourselves up, we have a fantastic core group, and they have really set up how the collective will work, what our priorities are, and we've identified 4 priorities necessary to drive investment. One is that we have menstrual health and hygiene incorporated in policies, that we have improved availability and use of use of evidence to drive that investment. We need a really strong public narrative about the need for investment in menstrual health and hygiene, and also strengthening this collaboration globally. The other thing that we've achieved in this year has been establishing our identity. So when we were formed, we didn't have a name even, but we knew what we wanted to achieve. And a group of members have come up with our name, the Global Menstrual Collective. We wanted to be very inclusive, and also our logo, which I hope you might be showing as well. So we've got that strong identity now, and soon we'll be building on that to have a website, so people who are interested to know more about the collective will soon be able to find out and also get in touch with us if people are interested to join. In terms of our collective actions, we have a number of action groups working together to deliver those. One has been on advocacy, so engaging in key global processes and platforms such as the International Conference on Population and Development, Women Deliver, and the Commission on the Status of Women. So we've been making sure that menstrual health is on the agenda for those events. And we've been contributing through, for example, we delivered a collective statement for the Commission on the Status of Women to call for menstrual health and hygiene to be recognised as essential towards gender equality. And we also were able to have a mini campaign working with decision makers, governments, donors, to also add their voice to our call for the need for investment in menstrual health. Additionally, we have groups working on research. They're looking at what are the evidence needs of people, stakeholders, in order to really make the case for investment in menstrual health and hygiene, and can we invest in those? And also looking at terminology too. And obviously very recently with COVID-19, we've been pooling all our resources and information to support people to integrate menstrual health into COVID response and make those resources available. So looking ahead,
yes,
ahead,
that's exactly, yeah.
Where we want more collective action. I heard earlier you had someone from Generation Equality speaking, and we really want to get attention back onto that gender equality campaign and make sure that menstrual health and hygiene is really central to that, working with members and allies across the globe. And we'll also be wanting to connect more with others now that we have ourselves like set up.
Yes, and we promise to keep to really don't let the gender equality, now as they send the video, we will use that because we're good advocates. And yes, with the menstrual bracelet. And my last question goes to Virginia, maybe very brief, a message to the global movement watching today from your end.
I think collective multi-stakeholder action is key to ensuring access to essential MHH services through the improved funding itself, and also funding to related sectors, like for instance, sanitation and hygiene funding for services for women, girls, and all menstruators is all very, very important, and other related sectors like gender, since it's a multi-stakeholder issue. Thank you.
Thank you. We always close with period, and it's time for action.
Collective action.
See, and
collective action.
Exactly. And Virginia is the person with 3 bracelets, so she really, she really powers it up. Thank you, Virginia and Therese. Have a good rest of Menstrual Hygiene Day, and be in touch soon.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, well done. This is fantastic.
Thank you. We turn briefly to Yulia.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the media coverage, which is a lot higher than in the first session. I'm happy to say that because, yeah, as I said, the COVID topic, of course, is omnipresent, and I'm really happy that to see that many media cover the topic. So this one is ABC 17 reports about India, which has an unlikely new type of period health educators, which are men. Wow. So there are men tackling social stigma and yeah, helping women there. I don't know whether we could provide the link somewhere if someone wants to read it afterward later on. I think we will do a collection of interesting articles because it's really worth it. So that's still news from India, and then we have one of the biggest news redaction in Africa, I guess. It's Citizen CO.
In Kenya.
In Kenya? Ah, in Kenya. Okay. Okay. So they are also talking about more than talking about periods in general. They are using our headline, World Menstrual Hygiene Day, periods don't stop for pandemics, which I think is pretty cool when thinking about that. We thought, how should we name the whole campaign, and what wording should we use, and then seeing that such big media uses the stuff that we thought about, I don't know, two months ago. It's pretty nice. So and then something I also really liked is the South African government published a press release where they say the government celebrates the Menstrual Hygiene Day. South African government celebrates Menstrual Hygiene Day. Periods don't stop for pandemics, and neither does the South African government nor the South African Bureau of Standards. Pretty nice, right? Yeah, yeah, they did. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Also, yeah, also pretty cool. And then we have another media, what is it? PanAfricanVisions.com, and they have a photo in here talking about an organization that are one of our partners, I guess, that uses our materials, which is every time pretty nice to see that the stuff that we provide, is being used. And before I get back to Thorsten, I got another short message from France, which we still need to have a look at. Let me...
Can you tell us who it is, Yulia?
No, but can you, Thorsten?
I know who it is. Yeah,
it's Marlene.
Marlene Schiappa, who's
that's
the
right.
Secretary of State for Gender Equality,
okay.
who sent us a really short message.
Okay, let's see what she has to say.
A world without period poverty and stigma.
Great.
Well, it's short, but it's very
short, but
very
powerful.
Sweet, very sweet.
And very sweet. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Back to you,
Ina.
Yes, I wish I could follow that. And I also heard through the news that in Kenya today the national policy was finally announced this morning. They're long time in the making, I would say, but also through a really collective effort through NGOs, different ministries, civil society groups. It came out, and we all agreed when we met for ICPD last September that a policy is great, but we also need to make sure the policy is implemented. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of traction and action in Kenya. And and that links me really well to my next guest, which is Janet Mbuguya. She is an advocate, really a media personality, and also she founded the Inua Dada Foundation recently. She actually was the moderator of the launch this morning, and I think she's in the car moving back, and we all know Nairobi traffic can be mean, but there she is. Hi, Janet. Hi, I think you need to unmute yourself and...
There I am, sorry. Are you happy with this? Yep,
yes.
Perfect.
That's great.
I was just saying, Janet, you're in Nairobi traffic coming back from the launch, right?
Yes, finally we have a framework.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
First of its kind, I think.
And they have 5 years to implement it. Exactly. But we don't want to talk actually about the policy. But I really wanted to talk to you because you're a media personality and you bring in a very different perspective that we haven't heard before. But my first question is, why are you so passionate about periods?
Well, I'm passionate about periods because I'm a woman who's been able to have access and the privilege to manage my period with dignity. And I find it completely unjust that millions of girls and women don't have the same experience. And so when there was a television feature that aired in 2013 that showed girls using chicken feathers, goat hide, in the place of sanitary towels, I said, I have to do something. I have to join the fight to end period poverty. And because I had a platform, given that I was a news anchor at the time, I launched my foundation to really mainstream the conversation more than anything, to take it away from closed doors and hushed tones, to bring it in the spotlight into the media, into digital media, and get everyone involved in the conversation. So I'm very passionate to see justice delivered to girls and women who really deserve it.
Yeah, and you do a lot about this. And as I introduced you, and we had a pre-talk, we were very clear with that we need to reach beyond the experts, we need to reach beyond the bubble, and we need to build and use the power of the public narrative. What are some of your ideas or other ideas how to achieve a really truly multi-stakeholder participation and conversation around periods?
I love that question. I think the first thing is to make everybody feel like they are invited to the conversation, right? Because me coming from media and being a digital influencer and then being an advocate, it was all very organic. I kind of fought for it and tried to learn and try to understand, but I recognize that not everyone is comfortable in these spaces, but they want to be in there. So my approach is everyone is welcome to the table. My platform convenes people who are from digital campaigns that allow everyone to feel like they're a part of the conversation, get their views, get their perspective, and then share that and do it all over again.
Yeah, and we had we heard a few different perspectives already today, and what you are also bridging, and you're bridging as a media personality, also advocacy and dialogue with governments or with decision makers, and so on. And I know that a lot of people turn to you as a role model in speaking out and advocating about. Maybe you can share some tips for future advocates, how they can advocate for the issue of menstrual health and hygiene.
Wow, you know, it's even hard for me to believe that I am in the advocacy space. This, like I say, just happened very organically. In fact, I remember there's a time I was speaking about it so much, and somebody said, "Oh, you're a menstrual health advocate." I'm like, "Oh, am I? Okay, I guess I am." I mean, I was just really using my platform and my voice and my agency to talk about something that I feel is really important. My tip would be, don't wait until you have a massive platform or wait until you have the perfect message. Just start having the conversation. Start with your group of friends. Start with your family. Start by joining Twitter and Instagram conversations. Start by joining conversations in the community. Pick what you're learning and share it on your platform, and be very consistent. The one thing I do is I campaign relentlessly. It has to be very intentional, very consistent. Even when you feel like people are tired of hearing you, just be like, no, this has to be a priority issue, and I'm going to keep talking about it until it is mainstreamed. So be consistent, learn, plug into conversation, start crafting what is that's special to you. As an example, for me, inclusion is also very important. Are we hearing women who are differently abled, women who are deaf, women who come from different communities? So if that sticks with you, then be an inclusion advocate. If the fact that girls don't have access to sanitary products triggers you, become an advocate for that. So pick the thing that you really want to drive as a conversation and be consistent and use your platform, talk to your friends and document it and then share it. That's how you start these conversations.
And you couldn't be more on point on Menstrual Hygiene Day, which is the platform to drive conversations and where many people join online. And we had my colleague sharing really what's happening. But I think you shared extremely valuable tips and some coalitions shared before. If you have your agenda, you drive for it. I also want to understand a little bit how you engaged with different stakeholders as a tip, because especially as young becoming advocates, how do you talk to politicians? So what are some tips you can share there? I mean, we're just plugging your tips because I think you're the right person the audience today can listen to and learn from.
Thank you so much. I'm still learning, and I love the fact that I'm constantly learning new things. So in terms of engaging policymakers and politicians, I try to invite them onto my platform. So for example, in January, I hosted a menstrual health inclusion conference or forum in Nairobi. And I invited members of the government and said, hey, could you please come and listen in, say a few words if you can, because you really are the custodians of the policy. So I find that an effective way to include them is to invite them into a conversation to get their perspective and then engage them in terms of, now that we're starting to talk, what do you think we can do together? How do you think we can encourage public participation? So it's usually a bit tricky because sometimes either it's not something that's priority for them. So find the person who you feel is driving the agenda and try and invite them. Try and collaborate with a few partners and invite them onto a conversation. That's the easiest way to plug them in. And then from there, have a conversation with them about, okay, so what are we doing? What help do you need from us? How do we collectively achieve menstrual equality? And then just keep having those conversations with them. Today, seeing the Cabinet Secretary for Health, a man, launch this policy in Kenya, I mean, it's incredible. I'm so happy. And so we're hoping that as a team, collectively, we can find a moment to have a conversation with him, because now he has the ears of the menstrual equality, champions. So that's how you do it. You come together and then you take a message collectively to the politicians.
Yes, that's we hear it loud and clear, and people will learn from it. And we had a good example earlier from we heard a similar example from Vivian from Mali, where that shift has happened. Last question, because we talked about message. What is your message to the global movement watching today?
I think for the global movement watching today is, let's hear stories from around the world and let's use those to drive a very intentional agenda. I say that because for the longest time, period issues coming from, for example, Africa, were lesser known to the global world. But now that we're being open about it, take a cue and listen into advocates and activists from different parts of the world and create conversations that are skewed towards them. Don't have a blanket way of having this conversation. See, like what you're doing, Ina, I think this is fantastic. You're speaking to different people in different parts of the world, asking very specific questions. Let's also use that to drive agendas and policies. So that's what I would want. And let's keep amplifying. I mean, it's working. Today, MH Day has been huge. Everyone's been talking about it online. It's been trending. The trend is really, really good. It shows an interest in wanting to participate and wanting to amplify the message. So let's not tire. Menstrual champions, do not get tired. I know it can be tiring, but let's keep going because we still have a lot of work to do. We need pads. We need sanitary products to be accessible to women and girls around the world. And so let's keep going.
Thank you. We it's a great message because we said in 10 years we want to be done with period poverty, so we can't get tired. Yes. And Janet, we have you on our side. I know. Thank you very much for sharing your passion and insights. Have a good rest of Menstrual Hygiene Day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Pretty cool. Very cool.
Yeah, very inspiring. 10 more years and then we retire.
Yeah. You said this morning, Torsten, that this is our vision.
Yeah.
We heard a lot about the impact of COVID on pandemics, and we've done something cool that you want to introduce.
Yeah, periods don't stop for pandemics, and neither does the South African government and Office of Standardization. I really, really like that. Over the last few weeks, we worked together with the African Coalition for Menstrual Health Management, Days for Girls, the Global Menstrual Collective, PSI, WaterAid, and WSSCC to develop a really short, concise, and precise tool, an infographic that really summarizes the problem, but also then looks at the actions needed. Looks at the problem in terms of like what happens to disrupted access to information, persisting taboos, and stigma that girls and women are even more exposed to now that they were facing lockdowns, disrupted access to products, but also lack of access to wash infrastructure within lockdown scenarios. And there are a bunch of actions that governments really need to look at in terms of including MHH into emergency response measures, looking at menstrual products as products that are prioritized in terms of the crisis, among others. But what is also like a very important message is that we need to make clear that even if we address MHH in the crisis, that's not where we can stop, right? We have to think first, like, what do we now do in the crisis, and then also like how can we step up action and investment beyond the crisis? Because right now we are not yet on a trajectory where we have the finances to end period poverty and stigma by 2030. Right now, we are still in a situation where investment is far too low to get anywhere near to our dreams. So one of our big points is that really to create a world without period poverty and stigma, we need to step up action, and for action we need investment. If you want to drive change, you need fuel in the tank. And that is one of the key messages of this document. And that also then really nicely connects to our next topic, which is really also looking a little bit about, at a specific case study almost for Menstrual Hygiene Day and how we approach certain things. Last year here in Germany, we were experimenting with what we called back then a commitment session within an MHD event. Of course, like this year, we're all only online and digital because of COVID, but normally As you know, MHD has many advocacy events around the globe. And in that event last year, we included a commitment session where before the event, we told everybody, come to the event and there's going to be a stage. And you can get on that stage in the spotlight, but only if you bring a concrete measurable commitment. What you're going to do within the year 2019. And that worked wonders. From the partners that we invited to join the MHD event, in the end, everybody brought a commitment. And that included a wide range of actors from the Merck Family Foundation to our friends at Einhorn, to GIZ, to Welthungerhilfe, to the Ministry for Development Corporation, who stood on stage and made some really bold commitments that we're going to hear more about in a few minutes. I think like what we really care about with regard to that, it's a great learning experience in terms of how if you frame the conversation in terms of commitment, and if you do that collectively and everybody commits, it really triggers commitment and a sense of accountability. And of course, like our plan was that this year again we would have a Germany event and everybody would stand on stage again and report back whether they achieved their commitments and announce their new commitments. That is now difficult because of COVID-19, but at least partially we're going to do that now virtually, as we have some of the partners that made commitments last year now to be part of the conversation and give us update on what they achieved in the last year. But first, we're also like super thrilled to announce that German Ministry of Development Corporation has really stepped up the conversation and dialogue in the last couple of years. And for this MH Day, State Secretary Dr. Maria Flaxbart just published a really powerful video message that we are going to have a look at now.
Gute Menstruationshygiene ermöglicht ein selbstbestimmtes Leben von Frauen und Mädchen. Sie eröffnet Zugang zu Gesundheit, Bildung und vor allem gleichberechtigten Lebenschancen. Weltweit haben mehr als 600 Millionen Mädchen und Frauen während der Menstruation keinen Zugang zu einer Toilette. Das hat nicht nur gesundheitliche und soziale Folgen, sondern verhindert oft auch den Schulbesuch. Deshalb widmet sich die deutsche Entwicklungszusammenarbeit diesem Thema, das leider noch allzu oft tabuisiert wird. Ganz zentral sind Aufklärung und Information. Um das Schweigen zu brechen, haben wir zum Beispiel gemeinsam mit dem philippinischen Bildungsministerium über 5,7 Millionen Mädchen mit Menstruationsaufklärung erreicht. Wir finanzieren jährlich im Durchschnitt 44,5 Millionen Menschen den Zugang zu Trinkwasser und Sanitärversorgung. Dazu beraten wir auch den Zugang zu mädchenfreundlichen Schultoiletten und zu bezahlbaren Hygieneartikeln, so zum Beispiel in Nepal, wo lokal und nachhaltig Menstruationsbinden hergestellt werden. Gute Menstruationshygiene weltweit erreichen wir nur mit starken Partnern. Deshalb unterstützen wir globale Netzwerke wie die Sustainable Sanitation Alliance mit mehr als 350 Partnerorganisationen. Ganz besonders freut mich, dass das BMZ offizieller Partner und Förderer der Menstrual Hygiene Day Kampagne ist. Schließen Sie sich der Initiative an und helfen Sie, das Tabu zu brechen und eine gute Menstruationshygiene für Mädchen und Frauen weltweit zu verwirklichen. Vielen Dank.
Yeah. Our next guest in studio MHD is Yulia Lehman. Yulia is the head of the Division for Human Rights, Gender Equality and Inclusion at the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, in short, BMZ. I don't see Yulia yet.
She's coming. Yeah.
She's coming?
Yeah, she's coming.
Okay. Yulia, do you want to give us a quick nugget of golden information in the meantime while Yulia's coming online?
I have one quick gold nugget, I would say, because Flaviana Matata, a supermodel from Africa, one of the one of the most successful supermodels in Africa, mentioned us, and on Instagram. She on my screen. You should now see it. Unfortunately, I don't understand. what she's writing, but I talked to her 2 days ago, and yeah, we're pretty excited to have such a great ambassador. I mean, she has about 1.5 million followers on Instagram. Okay. There are some people. Yeah,
thank you.
Isn't that a gold nugget?
Yeah, that's a gold nugget. That's a gold nugget. Hello, Yulia. Hello, Yulia. Do you hear me?
I hear you clear and clearly.
Now I have you on the screen. Hi. So that's our next guest, Yulia Lehman from BMZ. I already announced you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Very warm welcome, Yulia. How are you doing?
Thank you, Torsten. I'm very well. I would have loved to see you in person like last year, but I guess this is what we have to make do with this year. Thank you very much for hosting us.
We're still doing Menstrual Hygiene Day celebration virtually. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day, Julia.
Happy Menstrual
Here
Hygiene
it is, wonderful. Julia, let me jump right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about why the issue of menstrual health and hygiene is so important to BMZ?
Yeah, thank you. It's still very, very big taboo in most of the societies, and it has bearings on a lot of aspects of girls' and women's lives. For example, if we look at the figures, about 12% of schoolgirls worldwide miss out on school, and they often have a lesser chance for education to start with. So we shouldn't be missing out on any day of school. And of course, the same for women. A lot of women miss out on daily work and daily income. And in addition, of course, you know, a lot of women are still stigmatized, and a lot of girls and women are actually socially excluded. And so it's a wider issue of social participation, of economic participation. And personally, I always feel the way a society treats menstruating women is very indicative of how a society treats women overall. So I think, you know, there's a gender equality issue there in general. But when we look at development cooperation, why is it important to us, and where can we do something? I think there are particularly 3 areas where we can engage in, and that's, of course, information and education. The other aspect, of course, is providing sanitary pads or sanitary products. And of course, we're also looking at improving facilities, i.e. toilets, water, hygiene in general.
I really like your point that how a society treats menstruating women is a good indicator where you stand overall with gender equality. I think that's a really great point. In terms of BMZ, it was great to see, like 2 years ago, Dr. Fluxbart made a press release. Last year, we did an interview, and today we just saw like the wonderful video message that she issued. That's really going in a great direction. And last year, you stood on the stage and made some really, really strong commitments to action on behalf of BMZ. So I'm putting your foot to the fire now a little bit, asking you where you stand in terms of realizing them.
Now, I'm very pleased that you asked this question, because it's actually good news. Last year, we promised to mainstream or to integrate menstrual hygiene in a lot of our WASH projects, WASH standing, of course, for water and sanitation and hygiene projects. So we said, you know, it's very important to a lot of the projects we're doing add a menstrual hygiene component. And last year we said we would reach about 1.2 million girls from last year to this year's Menstrual Hygiene Day. And I'm very happy to announce that we more than doubled this figure. We've actually reached 2.5 million girls around the world with those projects. Thank you. And there's several projects, you know, which I could talk about. I'm just, I know we're short of time, so just let me give you a few examples. For example, in Southeast Asia, we're running a program that's called Fit for School, and particularly in the Philippines, which is one of the countries where we implemented it, we did a survey, and we found out that together with the government, about 5.7 million children now finally know about menstruation. So the information and education campaign has been quite successful there. Plus about 75% of the schools actually stock pads. So if there's an emergency, if a girl needs sanitary pads, there is a supply there. So that is quite a good example. Same in Nepal, we're locally producing affordable sanitary hygienic products. That's also something important. It creates jobs plus, you know, it creates affordability of products, and they don't need to be imported. And we've teamed up with the World Bank to try something new, sort of a combination of producing locally sanitary plus a big campaign in Niger, in Sahel, a region where gender equality is still very low. So we're quite happy to support that with about 3 billion euros. So that's something we've also engaged in since last year. And finally, I think also on the political scene, since we're the ministry, you know, there is another scene to engage with. At the UN level, we've supported with other countries a new General Assembly resolution on water. And it's one of the first times where menstrual hygiene figures quite prominently in that. And of course, you've seen this, I think, before, and then Parliamentary State Secretary Flaxbart announced this. There's this Susanna publication, the Sustainable Sanitation Alliance. It's a big publication on the latest research, on the latest state-of-the-art of approaches how to deal with menstrual hygiene that we are launching today. And last but not least, we've managed to support your campaign.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks a lot for that. Now BMZ also is a partner of the Menstrual Hygiene Day movement. We really, really appreciate that. So that's so much what happened in the last year alone. I'm dying to know, what are the next steps? What are you planning in the year between MHD 2020 and 2021? So we have something to talk about next year.
Yes, we're trying our best. You know, we're all struggling with the current crisis. We're all struggling with the pandemic, and we know already, unfortunately, that this has a very detrimental impact on women and girls. We're all hearing about domestic violence, about sexual violence on the rise. We're hearing about girls not going to school. So it will be harder in many ways to reach girls, and you know, there will be other issues to address. But we're also trying to look at this as a chance, as an opportunity. And since we're doubling up our efforts in the water sector in general, because water is so important for hygiene and to fight this pandemic, and the ministry has compiled a very big package addressing all areas that are affected by the crisis. So within those water projects, within those sanitary projects, wash projects in general, we're looking at attaching components for menstrual hygiene there as well. So, you know, hopefully this could also be an opportunity to step up our efforts. And so we're a bit more careful about our pledge, but we're hoping to reach 2 million more girls from this year to next year's
Excellent. Excellent. That sounds great. Wonderful. So one last question. There is a whole community of people watching now. Do you have a message to the Menstrual Hygiene Day movement?
Well, you know, being, you know, a member of the government, of course, we feel that there's so many donors out there who do great work in the wash sector, who do great work in the health sector. So, you know, let's team up efforts and share best practices and efforts, how we can attach menstrual hygiene components to those already existing projects in the health sector, in the wash sector. And then, of course, you know, personally, I always think we have to start with ourselves. When I was preparing yesterday for today's interview, my 10-year-old approached me and she said, you know, what are you doing? And this sparked a great conversation about breaking the taboo among her peers, her friends. So, you know, I think we have to start with ourselves.
Fantastic. Yulia, if you need some more bracelets for the family, just tell us and we'll provide them. So your daughter can be a champion.
They already stole mine, but I got it back from them.
Excellent. Yulia, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. Good rest of the day.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day, and see you next year, Thorsten.
See you next year. Ciao, Yulia.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we can do commitment sessions also online. So, And it's really important about accountability and really staying true to the word and holding partners who committed, including us, including our next guest, accountable. I think I just wanted to pick up something that Julia just said. It's about cross-sectoral. I think we haven't talked a lot about this yet, but I think it's all clear to us that menstrual health and hygiene is is important for WASH. It's important for sexual and reproductive health. It's important for education. It's important for health overall. It's important for gender equality. And this is a great opportunity, but also sometimes a challenge because we work so much in silos. But I think it's really for Menstrual Hygiene Day today, we really see that it started with the WASH movement, but now we're broadening it out. Yeah, that's what I see.
Yeah, really great points, Ina. And I think like we're going to hear more about that now from our next guest. A very warm welcome to our next guest in Studio MHD, who is Matthias Mogge. Matthias is the Secretary General and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Welthungerhilfe, one of Germany's largest non-profit organizations, working especially on eradicating hunger and malnutrition. Yeah, we're getting Matthias live now. I believe I'm not seeing him on the screen yet, but I think Matthias, do you hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, excellent. Here you are now. Hello, Matthias. Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to you. Excellent. You have your bracelet. Wonderful.
Of course.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show, Matthias.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Excellent. Tell me, Matthias, Welthungerhilfe means like from your name, the organization sounds like primarily to be about like nutrition and hunger. So why are you as a man and as a Secretary General of Welthungerhilfe passionate about an issue like menstrual health and hygiene?
Well, I'm traveling quite a lot, and we are quite a lot into school construction and also school feeding. And I see very often the problem that in particular girls cannot attend the education, cannot attend the lessons. And I've asked myself, why is that? And then I got more and more aware of what the problem is. We have also a celebrity, Gesine Zukowski, who went to Uganda a couple of years ago and who had the same experience than I had. And she said, well, we have to do something about it. This is not possible that girls cannot go to school. And as we know, education is so important to get out of poverty and to get out of hunger. And therefore we said, we have to do something.
Great. And Gesine is a good point. She was last year, she also spoke at the Menstrual Hygiene Day event in Berlin. And she told this amazing story that completely stuck with me because I had never thought about that angle. She said that in one of your projects that she visited in Karamoja in Uganda, women are so discriminated against that they have to leave the family when they're on their periods. And when they leave the family, their children are not getting food. So actually, like poor menstrual hygiene discrimination there is like leading to malnutrition. And I had never thought about that link before. I found that like a really, really powerful story. Yeah, and getting to last year in a commitment session at the 2019 MHD event, Welthungerhilfe committed to educating 11,000 girls. You educated 11,000 girls in 2018, and you committed to increasing that to educating 15,000 girls on good menstrual hygiene management in 2019. My question, did you achieve your target?
Yeah, I can tell you we have achieved the target and actually we have reached 120,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting that more and more country directors are getting engaged. This example from Uganda has really spread throughout the organization. And more our project staff, but also partner organizations, they get very much aware that this is a topic we have to embark on. We have to do something about it. And therefore, I'm personally very happy because I was also engaged at the very beginning when I met Gesine and she was talking about this whole project. And I thought, this is an issue and it is an important issue. We have to do more about it. Yeah. So that we have reached now so many people, I'm very happy about it.
Great. But I think for us, like when I'm talking to other non-profit leaders, also like in Germany, one message that often kind of like comes to me is that, you know, we're doing much, but actually we could do a lot more. We just, one thing that is really lacking at this point, also in Germany, is the financial resources, especially for nonprofits like you, to scale up the successful programs. Is that something that is your experience too?
Yeah, definitely. It is not so easy to get also funding for these programs. And I just understood that Ms. Flaxbart was also here on the program. I couldn't really listen to her. But I'm glad that we have the possibility now to talk to politicians, to talk to ministries about it. And I really hope that gradually also the ministries will release more funding. Also see the very important role of NGOs, because we are very close to the people. We are in this kind of education programs. As I said, school feeding, construction of schools. We're very close to the people, and we can do, I think, much more if we have the necessary resources for it.
Great, and I'm very hopeful that the issue will continue to increase, also like in Germany. Yesterday, we had a photo shooting at the German Parliament, and you know, if you had told me that like 3 years ago, I would have declared you crazy if you told me that like 5 parliamentarians come, including men, to raise the bracelet and say that, you know, like we need to take action on menstrual hygiene. Yesterday, 35 parliamentarians from 5 different parties came to our invitation and had their picture taken and said, you know, this is an important issue. We want to help break the stigma, and we need to do more in Germany and in German Development Cooperation and Emergency Cooperation.
Good.
So hopefully we can use that and in conversation with champions in the government, ensure that there's going to be more funding available in the future, so that organizations like Welthungerhilfe and others can really step up the action. Thank you so much, Matthias, for being on the show. It was a great pleasure, and happy Menstrual Hygiene Day to you.
I'm thanking you.
Thank you so much. Ciao.
Ciao.
Wonderful. That's actually a really great transition, Torsten. You gave us, that means my next guest, Elena, from Weinmann and from Einhorn, because when you said it's an important topic, not only for developing cooperation, but also within Germany. Einhorn is really a great organization, or a social business actually, to talk to, because they're also really were behind with other organizations to scrap or reduce the tampon tax here in Germany. And that happened also. Yeah, is it okay? Yeah. Elena, are you still there? Oh, okay. Oh, dressed in red. Perfect. You had a tremendous success with other partners to scrap the tampon tax, but that's not why we talk about today. We talk about the commitment session we had last year and what happened since then. And last year, you and Torsten stood on the stage and committed to address period education in Germany. What happened since?
So first of all, thanks for having me. I'm happy to see you.
Happy Menstrual Hygiene Day.
Yes, happy Menstrual Hygiene Day. So exactly. Last year, WASH United and Einhorn promised to improve the period education in Germany. And since that, a lot of happened actually. So we did a big survey, we did a workshop, we talked to educational experts. We also visited period workshops with teenagers and with children. And on the base of that knowledge, we created a concept. And I would like to firstly talk a bit about the survey and then talk about the concept, because what we found out in our surveys, like we did one with 3,000 women and girls and one with 89 teachers, was really alarming. So we found out that only 70% of the girls and women say that the education in the school regarding periods was good or very good. And 60% said it was embarrassing. So what happens when you're embarrassed while listening? You don't listen because you're embarrassed. So that's really, I don't know. I think it's horrible and we have to change that. So then furthermore, we also had, I have to walk. watch here. So, yeah, exactly. It was too late, the education, like 32% of the girls who surveyed who took the survey said it was too late because they already had their first period when the education in school happened. And yeah, that were only some of the results we found out. And then also the teachers, 78% of the teachers said that they would like to get new materials, get different materials, and more than 50% of the teachers said that the training on periods that they have right now in schools is not sufficient. So we see that this is a big problem. And yeah, that's what we found out. And on the base of this knowledge, we kind of developed a concept. Should I go on, or?
Yeah, please, of course. Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, those results are shocking, but yeah, we use those results. Yeah, please go on, of course.
Okay, so since we found out that only 3.5% of the girls and women said that the education in schools is like sufficient and like was enough to educate them on periods, we decided that we need to kind of enhance this training and help them a little bit with external trainers. And so what we did is like we developed a training program with a peer-to-peer approach, and those trainers that we want to educate are like they are supervised by 16 master trainers for each federal state. We have one master trainer that like take care of all of our little trainers that go directly into the schools and are young, so they have the connection to the girls. And we also have the other element, which is a manual, a training manual, which is user-centered, which is already you already have experience with this kind of manuals in other countries, and we kind of now try to make it work for the German context. And also we have a little booklet for the girls, so they can take it home after the session to read a bit more, like when they're at home and not in school, and really engage with the topic a bit more. And then also we have the online platform, which is kind of needed for the teachers also to get materials if they don't want to book an external trainer, but also to get everything updated and to connect schools and the trainers. And yeah, that's basically what we worked on last year.
It was as you said, really a lot, but we're both committed, or like both organizations are really committed to do a revolution. In Germany, we call it Regelrevolution, which means the period revolution. No one can stop us from here. Thank you, Elena, for sharing. We're looking in Germany, you will hear more from the results and what we're planning through your community anytime soon. I wish you still great rest of MH Day. I know you have also a program tonight.
Successful event, yeah.
And have fun on that event, and talk soon, Elena.
Yes, talk to you soon. Have a nice MH Day.
Yes.
Happy MH Day.
Happy MH Day. Bye.
Yeah, we often don't have that on the radar, that period education can be such also a challenging issue in the global north. I mean, we always had, like you and I, when we were talking, like a gut feeling that the issue would be really problematic in Germany too. And for me, at some point of time, my son had his sexuality education in school, and I learned that the teacher basically asked into the class, like, does anybody have a mother who could do something? And somebody said, oh, my mom's a midwife. And then she came and did something. And I was like, what? That is like what sexuality education and period education then looks like. And that was it. And the idea that 17% of women and girls say that their period education in school was good or very good is just like shocking. 83% say it's not. So there's a huge challenge that really needs urgent addressing.
Yeah, and we're committed to that.
Yeah.
So we're almost at the end of the show, but I still want to turn one more time to Yulia.
Yeah, we need to.
I think she's
I can't believe what I'm telling you right
now.
Yeah,
come on, go ahead.
I cannot believe.
Shock us, blow us away.
Yeah, let's have a look at our Meltwater dashboard, which is our social monitoring tool, which means every tweet, every post, every share, and every video on YouTube that you publish is being tracked in this tool. And yeah, in the session this morning, I was pretty optimistic that we could that we could come close to the total contributions and to the reach that we got last year. But last year we got Kourtney Kardashian by accident mentioning us, and of course the media coverage was bigger because there wasn't the COVID topic. And yeah, what can I say? We're 17% over last year's total contributions.
Wow. Wow.
We have a social reach right now of, I can't believe it, 867 million, which means the post and all the shares and everything you did, you crazy guys right there out there, have reached 860 million people.
With positive messaging about menstruation.
With positive
Hopefully
messaging.
no,
No, not only positive. No, we can't say that, but messaging about menstruation. And Menstrual Hygiene Day and everything in context with that. So I don't know what to say. That's really great. That's really great, and it's really touching. And we were really thinking about, okay, what can we do about the media coverage in times of COVID? And now I think, COVID? I don't know. It can't stop us. COVID means it can't stop us. It's really great. And fun fact, I forgot that in the last session, as you can see in this card, which is kind of a heat map, as it shows in which countries you are. How active you are in which countries, we could win Greenland, which was the last country that didn't contribute to MHD until last year, and now we have 6 posts in Greenland. Greetings go out to Mia Hoodie from Greenland. So I mean, thank you guys so much. This is pretty great, and we're not even finished. There's a third session,
is still
and
coming.
I can't imagine what's happening next.
Yeah, this is awesome, and I think it just shows the power of the movement that is there. That we've managed as a collective, we have managed to break through all to get attention despite like the fact that there's a global pandemic out there. That's amazing, and it also shows that the issue has like gained so much visibility over the last years that media keep reporting to it about it despite the pandemic, which is great. Still, we still have to do more. And one thing that also has been great is like to see like despite the pandemic, the numbers of partners for MHD increasing, and we want to thank all the partners that contribute to MHD as such, to the session today, to all the speakers, to everybody involved, to everybody who watched. But we also want to give a special shout out to our funders who help support the MHD Secretariat, who help us make MHD possible with our partners. And to be very honest, like 4 or 5 months ago, I was like, oh, you know, is that the time when all the progress we made will maybe like be undermined again? Because like funders will have different priorities, and maybe they will not find menstruation relevant at this point of time anymore. And I was worried that funders would actually say, you know, like this year, guys, we don't have money for you, and we would not be able to do MHD the way we did it. But what happened over the last couple of months, all of our funders continued funding MHD, and a whole bunch of new funders came on board in the crisis, which is, I think, like amazing. And so there's a special shout out now going out to all our funders, Procter & Gamble with their brands Always, This Is L, and Whisper, thank you. World Bank Group, thank you. The Case for Her, a big thank you to you too. The French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs, a new funder, thank you.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup. GIZ and the German Ministry for Development Corporation, Dankeschön. Kimberly Clark and Kotex, thank you. Welthungerhilfe with Matthias Morge, thank you for your support. Citron Hygiene from Canada, merci beaucoup, and thank you. World Vision, thank you. Merck Family Foundation, Dankeschön, and Dr. Schnell, Dankeschön. Thank you all for your support. You're helping us make this happen.
Wow, that
It's
was
getting emotional.
It's getting emotional. No, I mean, it's the end of the second spotlight session we had today. This was 2.5 hours full of really exciting talks. I'm really energized, and I hope you really enjoyed the spotlight session as much as we did here, and use the time to take a break, because that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We have a next spotlight session at 8 p.m. German time. This is featuring then the Americas, where we have again a diverse set of great interviews with FSG and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with the Global Affairs Canada, CanWatch, and the Purest Promise campaign, the World Bank, Procter & Gamble, Citron Hygiene, Kimberly Clark. We have someone calling in from Guatemala and Brazil, that is Julia Jack, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Yeah.
Goodbye, it's time for action still.
Happy MH Day.
Happy MH Day.